From the beginning of recorded history, humans have wanted to know their future. And sometimes when we actually receive a tidbit of our future, it can cause us to be very excited or be very fearful. And there are statistics out there that show some of the directions that our genes are going, our genetic future is headed, that can cause a person to be fearful. However, when we look closer at what these aspects mean for the species, our future isn't something to be fearful for, but to actually be hopeful for and to be celebrated. We've worked very hard to get here, and it's paying off. We made a lot of choices as a species that have directly affected our genetic makeup in noticeable ways, between medicine, our choice in partners, and the importance that we put on socialization. Personally, I've been an avid fan of evolution since middle school, and I've been keeping up on a lot of research on the subject, even as far as whether or not we are evolving as a species, which there's plenty of evidence to support it. I will be speaking about how medicine, birth control, and early delegation of assignments as cavemen even have affected our species' genetic future. The first aspect, medicine, is probably the most noticeable immediately on how we're going as a species. Our humanitarianism has led us to wanting everyone to live and everyone to live longer, and because of that, medicine has advanced to the point where people who would have perished certainly as children are now able to survive to adulthood. And since they can survive to adulthood, they are passing these genes on to the next generation. Uh, and that is one of the biggest effects that the medical advances have had. A good example of that is type 1 diabetes. Type 1 diabetes, even these days, claims a lot of lives of children. And according to the CDC in November 2012, on their morbidity and mortality weekly update, that in about 2010, about 200 children died from diabetes a year in the US alone. And when you hear all of this, it certainly sounds like we're heading for a doomed genetic future, especially when the National Diabetes Statistics Report in 2014 states that 1.4 million Americans are being diagnosed with diabetes every year. That can cause you to fear our future. More surviving people with genetic diseases, more cases the next year. But we shouldn't be afraid. Even though we have all this to think about, the advances in medicine have allowed us to live longer regardless. These genetic diseases aren't the death toll that they used to be. As this slide will show, some of the major aspects of diseases that have been taking our lives are down significantly just since 1990. Tuberculosis, maternal death, infant death, they're down 50%. Age-related deaths is down 24%. That's just since 2005. It's an incredible difference. And of course, as a result, our life expectancy has gone from 47 years old to 70 years old. That's a global statistic. That's not just for first world countries. That's everybody. And that's because of our humanitarianism. We want everybody to live. We want everyone to live longer. Another aspect of the way we're affecting our genetic history or future directly is trying to have control over even how and when and with whom we reproduce. That used to be something definitely up to randomness, but with the use of birth control, we're practically handpicking our next generation. An article on phys.org in October 2009 titled Unnatural Selection, Birth Control Pills May Alter Our Choice of Partners. It talks about how birth control chemically alters the woman's chemistry, the hormones that they exude when they're ready to reproduce. Not emotionally, of course, but physically. Once they start ovulating, on a normal basis, will exude these chemicals, and the male of the species picks up on them. The chemical reactions happen, and the next generation happens. But with the birth control taking an effect on here, our partners are not being chosen strictly by chemistry. Now we have the aspect of physical attributes, emotional attributes. We're choosing our partners on things that we like about them, positive things, brains, bonds, whatever it is. And it changes who we partner up with. Although they're on birth control at the moment, once that emotional bond continues and later on down the road they go off birth control and decide to start working on the next generation, it has changed who the next generation is, what they look like. Like I said, handpicking the next generation as to what we like out of people. The next slide here shows how dramatically that has affected us. Just since 1962 into 2004, the births per thousands have dropped significantly. It also shows that women are waiting longer to have children. It used to be from their early 20s. Now it's 30 years old. Part of that, I'm sure, is that we're living longer. But we're also choosing to have this next generation when we're more ready to take care of them. It's not, of course, proving that these children are being born to better and more supportive households. However, when you decide to have a child in the best possible situation you can, it can only help their situation. Because of the widespread use of birth control, we're now able to choose the number of children, with whom to have children, and like I said, we're handpicking our next generation. We've always been an exceptionally intelligent species, perhaps due to the choice of partners we're making. We're actually taking a high value on intelligence as a species. Now, if you notice on this slide, it's noting how our IQ has gone up pretty significantly since 1947. That bottom line on the graph there shows how our knowledge has stayed about the same, but our intelligence has grown. So we're not teaching very differently, but our innate intelligence has grown significantly over time, and a short period of time at that. Now, the last and most intriguing aspect of our direct influence on our genetic future has started back from the cave people. We started pulling away from the rest of the animals when we decided that hunting, finding food, providing shelter, taking care of the offspring, running away from predators, that's an awful lot for one caveman to do. So we started to delegate some of these tasks to each other. The first and most widely known about is hunters and gatherers. If you're getting really good at hunting and I'm getting really good at gathering, we can work together, and one person doesn't have to do both of those. We kept on getting better. Once we got really good hunters and really good gatherers, the success extended to having caregivers, then lawmakers, to cake decorators. Now we got people who test the functionality of a zipper for a living. But the ability to specialize has launched our species to amazing heights. We can spend time focusing and perfecting what we're really good at and not having to worry about the basic essences of survival. Someone else is going to take care of that. It also makes us very dependent on each other. When we're using our brains to work on specializing in whatever it is that we're good at, it can lead to invention. And these inventions generally make life easier. They save time on things. A lot of these inventions have reduced the need for physical labor by picking corn for us and so on. And so that is also a two-part effect on our genetic future as it is. No longer are women needing to find the biggest, the strongest male in order to know that she'll be taken care of in her future, she can choose brains over brawn if she decides to. But also, the creation of these inventions, saving time, saving energy, allows us to spend even more time specializing. So in this aspect, intelligence begets intelligence. The smarter we get, the smarter we get. The side effect of this may be that the next generation may not be able to bench press a Keurig, but be a really sweetheart, a smart sweetheart. Our specialization has grown, so has our dependency on each other. And that aspect of our genetic future may be a bit fear-inducing, to know that our basic needs of human survival are dependent on our neighbors, but our neighbors also dependent on us. Yes, we are more dependent, but more dependable as well. This is only served to increase our unification as a species. When another section of the world is facing drought, famine, war, plague, whatever it is, whoever has got what they need sends it. We're a unified species. We help everyone because of our humanitarianism. It all comes full circle to us wanting everyone to live and everyone to live longer. And we shouldn't fear our genetic future, even though skimming the topics of us getting physically weaker and more susceptible to disease and being very dependent on each other can be scary. When you look deeper into it, you can tell that we're only becoming a better species because of it. These have a very real effect on our future, and we continue to affect our future. We've traded strength for intelligence. We've removed some surprises from life in order to handpick our future generations. But now we can do what makes us happy instead of having to make bread from scratch while fighting off predators and erecting a shelter to sleep in that night. We work together as the worldwide team for survival of the species. We're amazingly resilient, and that constantly drives us forward. And although there's always wars and differences among us, we're clearly a very strong team, and we have always wanted us to move forward, and that makes our future something to look forward to. Absolutely.